Hi, welcome to the quiz. You can answer along on quizalto.com, all for free. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started, good luck. What is required to allow AWS CodeBuild to write build logs to Amazon S3? An appropriate IAM role with S3 write permissions. A VPC endpoint. Direct access to the S3 bucket. Enabling S3 versioning. AWS CodeBuild needs an appropriate IAM role with permissions to write build logs to Amazon S3. What source code repositories can AWS CodeBuild integrate with? Only AWS CodeCommit. Only Bitbucket. Only GitHub. GitHub, Bitbucket, AWS CodeCommit. AWS CodeBuild can integrate with multiple source code repositories like GitHub, Bitbucket, and AWS CodeCommit. How are build artifacts defined in AWS CodeBuild? In the IAM policy. In the Artifacts section of the buildspec.yml file. In the source code. In the compute type configuration. Build artifacts are defined in the Artifacts section of the buildspec.yml file, specifying what output files are stored and where. What is a buildspec.yml file in AWS CodeBuild? A file that defines the build commands and settings. A file that stores source code. A configuration file for EC2 instances. A deployment descriptor. The buildspec.yml file is a YAML file that contains the commands and settings used by AWS CodeBuild to run a build. What is a common use case for AWS CodeBuild? Hosting static websites. Automating the software build and test process. Monitoring application performance. Managing cloud infrastructure. AWS CodeBuild is commonly used to automate the software build and test process as part of a CI/CD pipeline. Can AWS CodeBuild integrate with third-party CI/CD tools? No, it only works within AWS. Yes, it integrates with many third-party tools. Yes, but only with Jenkins. No, it only integrates with AWS CodePipeline. AWS CodeBuild can integrate with many third-party CI/CD tools such as Jenkins and GitHub Actions. What is an environment in AWS CodeBuild? A storage location for build artifacts. A source code repository. A combination of build configuration and resources. A deployment target. An environment in AWS CodeBuild includes the build configuration and resources needed to run the build. Can AWS CodeBuild be integrated with AWS Lambda? Yes, for running post-build actions. Yes, but only for build initiation. No, they are separate services. No, Lambda functions cannot be triggered. AWS CodeBuild can be integrated with AWS Lambda to run post-build actions such as deployment or notifications. What does the Reports section in a buildspec.yml file define? The build timeout. The environment variables. How test results are exported. The source code repository. The reports section in a buildspec.yml file defines how test results are exported to Amazon S3 or other destinations. What languages does AWS CodeBuild support? Only Python. Only Java. Multiple programming languages. Only JavaScript. AWS CodeBuild supports multiple programming languages such as Java, Python, Ruby, JavaScript, and more. Can AWS CodeBuild be integrated with AWS Secrets Manager? No, secrets must be hard-coded. Yes, to securely manage build secrets. Yes, but only for environment variables. No, only AWS Parameter Store is supported. AWS CodeBuild can be integrated with AWS Secrets Manager to securely manage and use secrets during builds. Can you trigger AWS CodeBuild builds using AWS Code Pipeline? Yes, but only through manual triggers. No, only AWS CodeDeploy can trigger builds. Yes, it integrates with AWS Code Pipeline. No, they operate independently. AWS CodeBuild integrates with AWS Code Pipeline to automate build processes. What is the source section in a buildspec.yml file used for? To configure build phases. To specify the source code location. To define environment variables. To set up build artifacts. The source section in a buildspec.yml file specifies the location of the source code. How can AWS CodeBuild access private source code repositories? Using HTTP access. Using OAuth tokens or SSH keys. Direct access without authentication. Only through public repositories. AWS CodeBuild can access private repositories using OAuth tokens or SSH keys. What does the compute type in a build project configuration specify? The type of compute resources used. The type of source code repository. The build timeout. The IAM role used. The compute type in a build project configuration specifies the type of compute resources used for the build. Can AWS CodeBuild builds be manually triggered? No, only through CloudWatch events. Yes, builds can be manually triggered. Yes, but only through the CLI. No, only automatic triggers are allowed. You can manually trigger builds in AWS CodeBuild through the console, CLI, or SDK. Which AWS service is used to monitor the metrics of AWS CodeBuild? Amazon CloudWatch. AWS Config. AWS CloudTrail. AWS Lambda. Amazon CloudWatch is used to monitor the metrics of AWS CodeBuild, such as build duration and success rates. Can AWS CodeBuild cache dependencies to speed up builds? No, caching is not supported. No, each build starts fresh. Yes, but only for NPM packages. Yes, caching is supported. AWS CodeBuild supports caching of dependencies to speed up subsequent builds. What feature allows you to see detailed build logs in AWS CodeBuild? AWS CloudTrail, AWS Config, Amazon CloudWatch Logs, AWS X-Ray. AWS CodeBuild integrates with Amazon CloudWatch Logs to provide detailed build logs. What is the privileged mode setting in AWS CodeBuild? It grants additional IAM permissions. It enables access to EC2 instances. It allows the use of Docker within Docker. It provides enhanced logging. The privileged mode setting in AWS CodeBuild allows the use of Docker within Docker, enabling more complex build environments. What is the purpose of the cache section in a buildspec.yml file? To specify directories or files to cache. To configure IAM roles. To define the build commands. To manage build environments. The cache section in a buildspec.yml file specifies directories or files to cache, reducing build times. How do you update the build environment in AWS CodeBuild? By specifying a new Docker image. By modifying the S3 bucket. By changing the source code. By updating IAM roles. You can update the build environment in AWS CodeBuild by specifying a new Docker image in the project configuration. Which service does AWS CodeBuild closely integrate with for storing artifacts? Amazon S3, Amazon RDS, AWS CloudFormation, AWS CodePipeline. AWS CodeBuild stores build artifacts in Amazon S3 buckets. How do you specify environment variables in AWS CodeBuild? In an S3 bucket. In IAM roles. In the buildspec.yml file. In the source code. Environment variables in AWS CodeBuild are specified in the buildspec.yml file. What is a build project in AWS CodeBuild? A storage service. A virtual server. A configuration that defines how to run a build. A repository of source code. A build project in AWS CodeBuild is a set of configuration settings that define how to run a build. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and, if you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.